I'm always glad to see our military come to our meetings, and so I'd like Sergeant Abel to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this morning.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the November 20, 2014 meeting of the Shawnee County Board of Commissioners. My name is Bob Archer. I currently serve as chair of the commission and represent District 3 alongside Commissioner Kevin Cook, who serves as vice chair and represents District 2, and Commissioner Shelley Bueller, who represents District 1. Welcome and good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
First item.
Proclamations, presentations. Number 1, recognition of Scott Garcia by the 190th Security Forbes Squadron.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brett Starbuck, Kansas Air National Guard. Last week, we did an exercises to test our anti-terrorism measures out at the base, and we've, with our friendships with Shawnee County Emergency Management, Scott Garcia helped us out with playing a role of an individual that came to our front gate and matched the description of a possible terrorist. So with that, I'd like to show our appreciation, our thanks through a challenge coin that's original to the 190th Security Forces, and also with a certificate of appreciation. Scott? There's that. And this is the 190th Security Forces coin. There you go. Thank you very much.
You may want to read the...
Oh, yes. This letter was written by retired Chief Gary Wadley, who is back in the corner of the room. Mr. Wadley wrote that Mr. Garcia provided 190th Security Forces Squadron personnel with an opportunity to test their training and implementation of explosive detection device protocols by participating in a force protection exercise on November 13, 2014. Mr. Garcia was unknown to all participants, adding a level of realism we are not able to obtain when using members of our 190th Air Refueling Wing personnel as role players. As a result, security forces personnel were forced to evaluate the situation at hand with limited intel, utilizing critical thinking skills. Mr. Garcia was instrumental to the success of the exercise because he was able to remain in character as a delivery driver for the duration of the exercise. His demeanor while being detained, handcuffed, and questioned never wavered. This allowed security forces personnel ample time to assess and react during a dynamic training and exercise evolution. And just to note, the handcuffing was not part of the exercise event, so we weren't expecting that also either. So the 190th would like to show their appreciation today here at this meeting.
Very
Thank you.
good. Very good. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Lieutenant. Next item, please.
Number 2, presentation regarding social service, service programs for the elderly, and special alcohol and drug program funding, and consider resolution number 2014-102, allocating the funding to specific agencies.
I'll start here. I think there's 3 of us that represent this category here. But good morning, Commissioners. I am G.R. Laughlin, CEO and Executive Director of the Community Resources Council. Thank you for the opportunity to address you in person regarding the Community Social Service Grants. CRC is appreciative of the continued confidence the Commissioners have in us as we, again, manage this program for you all. On behalf of the entire social services community, allow me to express a most sincere thank you for continuing to fund the important work that each and every agency participating in the grant process provides to those in need in our community. Through your leadership and budget for the social service grants for the 2015 received an increase in funding, and which gave the review committees the flexibility to ensure that each requesting agency receives some funding of their 2015 grant request. Thank you for helping all the social service agencies and continuing to serve our community. I have prepared a spreadsheet for you to indicate that indicates the breakdown of the data as to the request and the amounts granted on behalf of each participating agency. So I stand for questions, and I have these copies for you available.
Are there questions for GR?
But I want to thank you for all the work that CRC does in helping the commission evaluate the grant requests. This is a great benefit to the commissioners as we go through, and you are able to sit down with each of the applicants and review their application and determine how these funds should be allocated. So, thank you to CRC.
Yes,
Thank you. Team together, team apart. So.
Commissioner.
I might just ask you, GR, you aren't the only one that reviews these applications. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about who does?
Okay, well, if we look at, CRC represents two organizations, SCACA, the senior group, and then, of course, the social services done through CRC. But
Okay.
Don would be glad to answer any questions. They had a separate committee that reviewed all of the requests and divvying up the different funds. And then at CRC, we put together some past Topeka leadership group people that evaluated the requests and based on their judgments came up with these numbers.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And someone want to speak to the social services?
That was GR.
Okay.
Senior group
And the I'm sorry, and now aging.
I think
I
we're all
thought you
looking at
would.
yeah.
Politician the opportunity to speak. Hi, good morning. My name is Don Woodard. Most people know me as the Speaker of the Kansas Silverhead Legislature. I'm also the Chair of the Grant Committee for the Shawnee County Advocacy Council on Aging, which is what you're talking about now. This is actually what we're presented with when we get the grant request. And we sit down, we go over it, and we call in the representatives of the agencies that are requesting the money. We look at their backgrounds and what they've done in the past, and we do look at performance. We have yet to really issue a request for proposal that's got what I would call pay for performance in it. Something I'm scaring everybody when I even talk about it. It'll be something I'll look at when I'm chair next year. So as chair of the Advocacy Council next year, unfortunately, you're going to be seeing a lot more of me. But that's basically the process. We go through it. We listen to them. We look at what they've done. We hear what they want to do for the coming year. We look at if it matches what the elderly services require for that year. And most of us that serve on this grant review committee are like myself. We're over 70 years of age, so we think we've got a handle on what the seniors in the county, and they're more apt to talk to us than they are to talk to you about what they'd like done. So that's pretty much the process. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Are there questions?
I don't know that I have any.
You covered it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your service.
Almost jumped up here when you were talking about aging, but I caught myself. I'm Max Wilson. I'm the chairperson of the Grant Review Committee of the Topeka Shawnee County Alcohol and Drug Abuse Advisory Council. This advisory council, as you probably remember, was set up by statute many years ago to advise the county commission on alcohol and drug prevention and treatment programs. Liquor by the drink tax is the funding source, and it's our understanding that once the state gets their take, then the counties and the cities get 1/3 for Parks and Rec, 1/3 for general fund, and 1/3 for distributing to alcohol and drug prevention treatment programs. We had 5 programs that applied. We were able to partially fund all of them except one, which we were able to fund that group out of some city money. They are Prevention Recovery Services Evaluation Program, and we have John Calbeck and Amy Arnett German here for that program, representing them, for $11,000. The 3rd Judicial District's Drug Court Program, the infamous Jared Harson is here. Longtime coordinator, I think the second one that appeared many years ago. The PARS, let's back up. PARS Substance Abuse Evaluation and Intervention Program is projected to serve 238 people. The drug court program is projected to serve 60. Successful Connections, the Drug Endangered Children Program, was another applicant. We did not fund it out of county funding, but we did fund it out of city, partially funded out of city funding. Vallejo's Reintegration Program, Phil Wallsmith's in the back here representing Vallejo, recommended $5,500 for the reintegration program, and then Vallejo's Social Detox Program of $37,000. If you have any questions about these programs, we have people here that can answer them.
Are there questions? Comments?
Fairly familiar with the programs, but again, thank you for going through the work that is put into evaluating how these grants money should be allocated.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Additional thoughts? Questions? Motion?
I'll move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Motion made to adopt the resolution by Commissioner Bueller and seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0.
Say something.
Yes.
I do want to say thank you to all of you for the very, very difficult work that you do in this community, and we're a very, very small portion of your budget. But thank you so much for everything that you do.
Very well put. Thank you, Commissioner Bueller. Next item, please.
Item 3, consent agenda.
Questions or comments?
I have none. Move approval.
Second.
Motion made to approve the consent agenda as presented by Commissioner Bueller, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item 4, new business. A, county clerk. Number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Commissioners, this morning we have vouchers that total $557,396.76. Some of the highlights out of these vouchers include special bridge projects. In a separate item for actual bridge improvements, we have the elections office that spent $10,372.26, of which almost all was allocated towards payments of our election sites in the past election that we conducted. Holding accounts with the state of Kansas and contributions to health insurance for our employees. Those highlights make up $390,036.82, so the majority of these vouchers. And I would move for their approval.
Second.
Motion made to approve the vouchers by Commissioner Cook and seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Number 2, consider correction orders.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Bueller to approve the correction orders, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Okay. Number 3, consider approval of resolution number 2014-103, authorizing the issuance of a cereal malt beverage license to Siemens 66, located at 4206 North Topeka Boulevard.
And all the pre-work
Yes.
was done.
Right, all the health
Properties
inspection,
and self-
KBI,
Okay,
yeah.
well, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
I'll second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item B, Sheriff's Office. Number 1, acknowledge receipt of correspondence from Sheriff Jones regarding acceptance of the bid for duty uniforms for the years 2014 through 2019 from Bay Singers Police Supply at a cost of $397.49 per uniform for an estimated total cost of $140,000.
Morning, Commissioner. Herman Jones, Sheriff, Shawnee County. I first off want to apologize for not feeling so well, but felt I needed to come here so we can address this matter here. What you have before you is a situation where a little bit after I became sheriff, one of the items of concern throughout the agency, or at least for the uniform officers there, was to look at something that's a little more viable for the officers and, if anything, a little more user-friendly, if you will. This uniform that I'm wearing right now has been in place for over 20 years, and as we know of time, you probably look at something a little bit different there. Obviously, tradition is a good thing, but one of the items that I looked at was several things. Was one, to look at something that's, again, user-friendly for the officers. Our times have changed where officers are engaged in so many things in their typical duties that they carry out. And at the same time, if you think of the utility belt that they wear, that's a lot of weight that they bear. So of looking at something that's different, we want to distribute the weight from the waist onto a vest type of a uniform. So with that, then a committee was brought together by various folks throughout the agency. It was their decision and their wear and examination, evaluation of the uniform that we have before you there. The key to this right here, obviously, is for the officers and making something that's a little more user-friendly, but also this comes as a savings for the county and the people of this community here. The uniform that I'm wearing right now would bear a cost of about $210 or so per uniform. That's a uniform for the shirt and for the pants. When we're talking about the uniform, we're talking about, we're going to is about $155 there. So it costs a savings there. Other thing with this right here, this uniform is a dry clean uniform, meaning that individuals that will have to at least get this appearance will have to have a dry clean for the proper attire. With this uniform we're going to, it's wash and wear. So with that, officers are able to save cost by taking and maintaining and having a quicker turnaround on the uniforms or so. It is a morale booster. Obviously, with some of the issues that we've had in the past and some of the constraints we have, this works in benefit for not only for the people, but also for our people that are working there, and they feel good about their uniform. So that's the main reason for this right here. Any questions?
Commissioner Cook?
I know that there was a well-written article that detailed this expenditure. It detailed what we're transitioning to, and I know that in speaking with law enforcement officers, just being able to avoid the dry cleaning cost, which is a cost to our employees, is a significant. Also, the wearability of the uniform, more flexible, being able to do their job better. I think that this is a well-thought-out purchase, and I'm glad to support it, and thank you, Sheriff, for coming here to explain it to us.
And I appreciate it. Also, I'm a little bit confused. I read, and there was a good article in CJ this morning, and it indicated that the current cost of uniforms was $255 and the new was $165. And I'm looking at the memorandum, and it says that the cost will be $397.49 per uniform.
Now,
At an estimated total cost of $140,000. What's the?
Basically, what we're talking about, there are other items that go along with that. We're going to have a different utility belt that goes with that, and the vest that goes along when we're talking about distributing that. So the total cost per uniform includes all of those items there.
So it's not really $165, it's $400.
It's $400, but
Okay.
that's a one-time. But over time, the uniform itself, the uniform, shirt and pants, is much
Okay.
less.
Gotcha. Any other questions?
Estimate on how much an officer was paying in dry cleaning? I mean, just,
I can only, it depends on where they take them.
Yeah.
For me, when I take it, it's anywhere from about $8 to $10 per uniform every time you take it in.
and the average officer has how many?
Every officer is issued 5 uniforms. So by the time you would take it in or so, if you get, obviously wintertime, you're not going to have as much soil right there, but summertime, basically an officer probably goes through a uniform a day due to the heat and everything like that, and wearing the ballistic vest that they wear.
Don't think we need a motion
No.
at this point. So next item. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Item C, Public Works, Solid Waste. Number 1, consider approval of request to issue a request for proposal for the purchase of 1 roll-off truck and 5 rear loader trucks with a financial impact of $865,000.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Block with Public Works and Solid Waste. It's a time of year where we're wanting to enhance our equipment fleet for solid waste with the vehicles mentioned in the memorandum. And I've consulted with Auto Finance Director, Ms. Greiner, and we are both very comfortable that we have sufficient funds in the solid waste department to make these purchases or go out for bids and make the purchases. And again, the funding would come from the solid waste operations budget, which again, I remind everyone, receives no tax money, so it's all user fee based, and there would be no impacts to any county taxpayers. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Questions or comments for Mr. Block?
No, I do not. Motion to approve the request for authorization.
I second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Tom. Next item.
Item D, Parks and Recreation. Number 1, consider approval of request to solicit bids for snow removal services for the courthouse and health agency parking lots.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Knight, Parks and Recreation. I'll have to admit, we were rather nervous last week, thinking that maybe we were just a little slow getting these requests for bids out. But we missed all the snow, but it did hit a little bit north of here. This is for the bids to remove snow in the parking lots at certain levels, when it reaches certain levels for the courthouse and the Shawnee County Annex. Terry Burrows worked close with all the representatives of those places. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions or comments?
I do.
Yes, Commissioner Cook.
John, in the past, we've been able to utilize the Shawnee County Department of Corrections jail workforce for removal. Are they going to be one of the entities that we would be looking at for the bid?
Where's Terry? Mark, I think this bid is the ones with the trucks who come in with the loaders and all of those type of things. The sidewalk snow removal, I'm not quite sure. Did you include? I'll let Terry Berthold answer that question.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Are we going to be utilizing the Shawnee County Department of Corrections workforce crew for removal of snow in this RFP?
Not at the courthouse, not at the health agency. No, this RFP is for parking lots only. The sidewalks are done by the maintenance staff in each one of those buildings. I can't address other areas as to whether there are arrangements made for corrections.
I know that the Department of Corrections does a lot of the snow removal for even the city. And I don't know, is it that they don't have the trucks? Is that the qualifier?
As far as the parking lots?
Right.
Right. No, they don't have the equipment to do that. These are contractors that have blades and salt spreaders and things like that that corrections do not have.
All right, thank you. Motion to approve the request for proposal for snow removal.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Number 2, consider authorization and execution of contract C-411-2014 with Barry and Marcia Robinson, accepting a donation of approximately 25 acres of ground to be identified as D.E. Dock and Nina H. Robinson Park.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is this doesn't happen very often in the Parks and Rec Department. This is a significant piece of property, strategically located to benefit a lot of the things that we're trying to do. To take that a little bit farther, the actual property owners are 3 brothers, Steve, Barry, and Todd Robinson. They're all Marcia and Barry are the trustees of the will. But all 3 brothers, everyone has been involved in this. It's a tremendous piece of property. To kind of bring some attention to you as to where it's located, it's right there at 29th Street and the Kansas Turnpike. It intersects and is directly adjacent to the Dornwood Park. In that part of the Dornwood Park is access to nature, has some biking, hiking trails back into it, but is relatively naturistic in its setting. One of the things that the family wanted to do was to keep it the way they remembered it as youth growing up and having access to the nature and those type of things, and that so that all of this property fits well together. An additional benefit that this property has is it provides us a possible connection between the Deer Creek Trail and 29th Street, which then we could bring the entire trail system together, in which Lake Shawnee would be connected to the entire trail system that's in our department. Acquiring additional lands, especially access to nature education and nature areas, is one of the highlights of our master plan, and all of that fits together. With that being said, I see Terry Bertles' head is down, so he must not have anything else he'd like to add to this, so be happy to answer any questions you may have. This is we also have in our foundation work closely with the family. They will have some things on our website telling about the family history of that and some of the personal stories, or at least the ones we can tell. And we will. It's a great for Parks and Recreation. It's a great day for the people of Pekin Shawnee County.
I know you must have comments, Commissioner.
I do. Shortly after Commissioner Archer and I joined this commission, we were faced with a decision on Wittenberg Road and the extension of the Deer Creek Trail to Lake Shawnee. And it was a difficult decision not to do an extension over the Wittenberg Bridge. This is the answer that we had been looking for. And in many ways, earlier this week we had a meeting with East Topeka and with Dornwood talking about this gift. And the word that was used by one of the members was it's a godsend. And I think that this is something that you just can't anticipate, and it fits in just so perfectly with the Dornwood, improvement of the Dornwood Park, extension of the trail, and just many, many heartfelt thanks to the family. This is not an insignificant financial contribution. John, you had a financial value of this parcel at $80,000?
Yes, that's what the appraiser came back with, yes.
And we did do an appraisal before we accepted the contribution. And so this is a very significant contribution and will be a highlight to the entire park system for that area. So thank you to the family.
Is the family here?
Yeah, I was going to ask.
They're not here, okay.
Okay. Very well said. Very well said. And did I hear a motion at the end of that?
Motion to approve the
Okay.
acceptance of the property.
Second.
Motion made to approve the contract by Commissioner Cook and seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. And my thanks to the family. This is tremendous. So,
We intend to have a more formal ceremony, ribbon cutting, and get the entire family back in the springtime when the weather's nicer, and the commission would be the ones who would be hosting that. So, yeah.
Good.
next item.
Number 3, consider approval of request to negotiate a contract with Lake Shawnee Golf Management for the management and operation of 3 county-owned and operated public golf courses.
Commissioners, just a brief history of our golf course operations. Lake Shawnee Golf Management was the contractor who ran Lake Shawnee and Forbes. In 2012, Shawnee County Parks and Rec acquired another golf course, Cypress Ridge Golf Course. At that time, I just asked the commission to extend those services to run the Cypress Ridge Golf Course. So we had not done a thorough search of what may be out there, what may be the best deal for Topeka and Shawnee County going forward. And as the master plan calls out, occasionally on a regular basis, people private companies who are contracting with the county need to go through an RFP process. One, make sure that we know we're getting the best deal that we can for these properties for the taxpayers, but then also to find out what's new out there and give everybody fair competition for these services. So we went out for an RFP. We received 9 responses for the RFP. They come from, they were wide-ranging from individual managers that run small companies all the way to the big companies who have golf courses all over the country. With that being said, a committee was formed, and the committee was comprised of John Thummel from Human Resources, Jonathan Brazon from the Counselor's Office, Betty Greiner was part of that committee, as well as Carrie Golden and myself and Linda Kelly from our department. So we reviewed all of the proposals that were submitted. We began interviewing some of the candidates. Some of the candidates we interviewed a second time to get some of our information. And after we've gone through all of that, we've got to the point where we want to recommend that we go back and
and renegotiate a contract with Lake Shawnee Golf Management. I think they ended up rising to the top of all of this, and see if we can come to an agreement on terms. Be happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Questions for Mr. Knight?
No, I have none. I'll move approval of the request.
Second.
And, yeah, I'd like to say that they have done a good job. They've been financially responsible and made customers happy, and that's what's important to me. Motion made to approve the contract, or I'm sorry, the request to negotiate a contract by Commissioner Bueller, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye, opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0.
Yes, I was saving the compliments for Lake Shawnee Golf till we got done negotiating the contract. But you didn't put us behind the 8 ball. We're still okay.
Okay, very good. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item E, Audit Finance, number 1, consider approval of request to sell surplus from several county departments, including 7 vehicles.
Good morning, Betty Griner, Financial Administrator. This is just a request for your approval to sell our surplus from all the different departments. And of course, other departments can use our surplus, you know, from department to department, and we do that. But these are the items that none of the departments needed. It does include 7 vehicles, and just to name a couple of these, one of them had mileage of 273,000 miles. Another one had 246,000 miles. So by the time we are ready to sell these, they have gotten a lot of use. We will be using Purple Wave for this. What Michelle and I have talked about, though, is especially on the vehicles, we are going to what we are proposing is we will list them on Purple Wave, but what we will do is then try to compare what we think they would have brought at an auction, and try to compare that and see, you know, for future years what we think would be the best option for the county. If you have any other questions, I'll try to answer them.
Questions?
Betty, your office always does such a great job on getting these listed and looking at the property, evaluating what we should keep and what is outlived its usefulness. I will note that, you know, Commissioner Archer, there's some deals for old typewriters if you want to grab one. So you might want to watch Purple Wave. Motion for approval of this sale.
I'll second, but I don't know what to say. In looking through some of these, quite a few of these, though, a lot of the vehicles have dead batteries. How long have these vehicles been sitting?
Well, the lady, yeah, some of them, I don't know, have been sitting for a while. The lady from Purple Wave that came out, she did come out with a battery charger, and a lot of them were able to get them at least running.
Jump started?
So to make sure that they would start. So, yeah, so I don't know how long,
Okay.
how long they've been sitting.
I did second, sorry.
Okay. Motion made with some very unwelcome comments by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye, opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Number 2, update on expenditures and revenues.
Okay, this is the October 31st financial overview, and just a reminder that this is a snapshot view as of this date. We'll start out on the revenue side. Our total revenue year-to-date was $101,235,000 compared to what we had budgeted of $95,575,000. And then I also have last year's year-to-date was $94,204,000. And I'll go through each category individually. This kind of shows you by the different colors the different, the portion of our revenue that comes from each. And as always, the property taxes is by far the majority of our revenue. Now, if we go to the first category, which is property taxes, we have received $70,933,000 compared to our budget of $69,586,000. So we are over budget by $1,347,000. As we've talked before, that is primarily just our delinquencies are down. So that is a good thing. For the month of October, we did receive a distribution in October, and it was we were down 109,000. But for the scheme of things, that's pretty much right on track. The next category is special assessments. We have received $3,859,000. Our budget was $4,221,000. Now, on that, we are $361,000 under budget for the year. And the month of October, we were $8,000 over budget. So, there again, for the month of October, we were pretty much right on budget. If we look at other taxes, year to date, we have received $11,319,000. Our budget for that same time period was $9,439,000. So year to date, we are $1,879,000 over budget. For the month of October, we were $340,000 over budget, and most of that was in motor vehicle taxes and in delinquent taxes, which were both over budget. The motor vehicle taxes we've talked all year have been over what the state had budgeted. We go to property-related fees. You can see this. We are down a little bit on that one, too. We have received $2,097,000 year-to-date. We had budgeted for the same time period $2,248,000. So we are $150,000 under budget. Most of that is in mortgage registration fees. That is down a little bit. Our next category is charges for services. We have received $5,613,000 compared to our budget of $6,012,000. So we're just almost right at $400,000. We're under budget on that. We were for the month of October $118,000 under budget. Most of that came from the detention facility was under budget for the month. Some of that is could be timing issues. Some of it also they never know. We make an estimate, and they never know what revenue they are going to receive from other sources on their inmate services. And then our last category is miscellaneous revenue. We have received $7,412,000 compared to our budget of $4,067,000. So we are $3,344,000 over budget. That has been, just increasing month to month with the different items. The one item for the month of October, we are $683,000 over budget. That is due to the fact that we had another defeasance, and we received $720,000 for that defeasance. This has been the major category that we've really seen the most difference in. So to do kind of a summary here, here's our revenue by category, and you can kind of see here that on the property taxes, the blue is our actual, the red is our budget. We are above budget there by $1,003,000. You can see down here in other taxes, we are above budget there, and by $1,008,000. But the big one is over here in our miscellaneous revenue here, and that's where we are 3.1 above. So when you look at this as a whole, as a kind of a recap for you, I'm telling you that we're $5,660,000 over budget. If I break that down just to kind of let you know where it's coming from in total, property taxes are $1.3 million over budget. Motor vehicles, $1.2 million over budget. The defeasance that we've had throughout the year is $2 million. Another $500,000 or $0.5 million for clawback fees, and then our delinquent taxes are up $400,000. So you total those up, that's $5.4 million. So that is the majority of where this money is coming from that we're over budget. To put it in perspective, though, if you look at this 5.6 million, that is 5.7% of our budget. So, you know, although it sounds like a large amount, and it is a large amount, but to keep it in perspective, that is 5.7% of our expected revenues. So if we go on to the expenditure side, we have had our total revenue, total expenditures year-to-date is $79,406,000 compared to our budgeted of $83,175,000. If you, so we are under budget by $3,768,000. Now, for the month of October, we were $206,000 over budget, and I expect that to continue in the months of November and December, because as the departments are watching, they've been watching their budgets very closely, and now as they see, you know, they may be some things that they have been putting off to see how their budget was going throughout the year, and those expenditures may come in these next 2 months. So if I look at, and here's another similar chart with the categories, and you can see in most all of these, the blue, the actual, is below the budgeted. Now, recreation and culture is about even, same as public health, public works, but debt service is significant lower too. So if you look at, as a recap again, this $3.7 million that we are under budget, that is the primary, the biggest portion of that is on the debt service, as you can see right here. This debt service is under budget. That is from the refinancing that we did on our debt, and then also we were able to pay a portion of the debt connected with the sheriff's office from the 911 funds. So that also helped our general fund expenses stay low. There again, if you look at this $3.7 million compared to our total expenditures, that is 3.9%. So we are 3.9% under budget for the year. This map, or this chart, also shows you where our expenditures are by category. You can see here, public safety, judicial, and emergency services. That is 42% of our expenditures. You can see it is 2.5 times higher than the next category, which is recreation and culture, which is 17%. I've mentioned this before, but I just want to mention it again. Our public works is 7%. Now, the reason that is 7%, a big reason that is because of our sales tax projects, our JADO projects. Those are, you know, so many of those road projects we can accomplish through JADO, and so it's not out of the general fund. So the reason that that is 7%, you know, is for that purpose. And if that had not passed in the future, we would be seeing that going up significantly. So, do you have any questions for me? I do not.
Questions, Commissioner Cook?
Betty, and if I just didn't hear it when you were going through it, where does our general fund stand at this time? And I know that that's a number that is in flux.
It is. It is in flux, and I'm sorry, I don't have it right here in front of me. But I can tell you it is up significant. When you look at just the numbers I've given you here, we had budgeted $3 million to increase. We budgeted an additional $3 million to go to our general fund balance. And what I've told you here today, we are under budget on expenditures of $3.7 million. We are over budget on revenue of $5.6 million. So we have got as it stands right now, our general fund balance at the end of the year would be, let's see, it would be the $3 million plus another $9 million. So we would have actually increased it by $12 million.
Okay.
So from what I'm seeing right here and right now. Now, that could go, decrease in the next 2 months.
And again, that general fund balance is one of the most key critical components in looking
Absolutely.
at the healthiness of an organization.
Yes, yes, and especially as we will be looking at some financing in the future, that is very important for our bond rating and our financing costs. And that's something that it was all very important to all of us going into this year, and this year is looking very positive.
Very good, thank you.
And thank you, Commissioner Cook. But what we have to remember, and I would encourage department heads to continue to toe the line. I know there's a tendency to use it or lose it at the end of a budget cycle, and I hope that doesn't happen, because we've made so much progress in our financial situation, and I think better days are coming for all of us.
Well, and along those lines, I would like to make a comment too. You're absolutely right, and as we look at changes we want to make in salaries or anything like that, the more we can bolster our general fund balance, the more we will be able to do that. So I absolutely agree. If the departments can really, contain the spending, it helps us all in the long run.
I agree. And thank you for the presentation. I appreciate knowing the reason for variances. It's one thing to say these are the numbers, but it's another thing to explain why the numbers are what they are. And I think you've done an excellent job of that, and it is certainly appreciated. Any other thoughts, comments?
I hear contain the spending, but I think our department heads do an excellent job of prioritizing spending.
Yes.
And we still have lots of needs in this county to take care of, and so prioritizing spending, I think, I want to give credit to the department directors who are putting those requests before us, so.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Next item.
Item F, Commission, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-412-2014, interlocal agreement with the City of Topeka relating to financing countywide infrastructure development and economic development.
Counselor?
Good morning, Commissioners. Rich Eckert, County Councilor. I think we can pat ourselves on the back. The sales tax passed, and I think to somewhat all of our amazement, it passed overwhelmingly. I know I, for one, was shocked at the measure of how it passed, and I think it goes to how much we pay attention to negativity and not to the positive things that we do. I think the public looked at what we did with the last and current sales tax and said, wow, that was pretty good. So I think we need to pat ourselves on the back a little bit for this and thank the public for trusting us yet again, and now we have to deliver again. And that's what this agreement is. It's an agreement with the City of Topeka, how we're going to go forward with the projects that we agreed on. There are a couple of differences here, but a couple things I would like to state before we get into this. First of all, people have asked me, well, you passed the sales tax and you don't have an agreement with the City of Topeka. How are you going to reach agreement now? And I'd say, well, we work pretty good together, so I don't know that's going to be an issue. But I would point out that the tax actually doesn't go into effect until we pass a special levy resolution. And that levy resolution is then turned over to the Kansas Department of Revenue. If we never pass that levy resolution, this tax never goes into effect. So it still rests at that table right there. Getting into the agreement, it's pretty much based upon how we did the last one. There are a couple of key changes. One of them, don't want to lose my place here. If you look at paragraphs 5 and 6 of the agreement, that's kind of where the meat of this agreement rests and resides. The bridge number has changed. It has gone from 1.5 million to 2.16 and some change. As the newspaper pointed out, there's a bit of a math issue with this sales tax. And I don't think it's an issue, maybe that's too strong of a word, but sales taxes are kind of an art, in a way, an art of estimating what's going to happen in the future. So there's always some leeway in how we do these things. When we put together the sales tax, we did two things. We were conservative in our estimates of how much the tax is going to bring in. This year alone, and I just checked with Ms. Greiner, we're going to be close to or right at $16 million in the year 2014. We used that number starting in 2016 and then throughout the entire tax. A very conservative estimate. We think we're going to exceed that very easily. Ms. Greiner informed me that if this sales tax only appreciates 1% per year, it'll easily cover the entire infrastructure program. The other thing that we did is that when we put a budget number for each of those projects, we estimated high. We believe that the bids will come in lower than that. So that's how we put together the infrastructure. It's exactly the same way we did it back in 2004, and we believe that we're going to end up with excess money at the end of this sales tax. So I don't want the public to think that, well, they're spending more than they're taking in, because we're not. As a further precaution, though, I did put in a further precaution here because we've had time to live with the last sales tax. In paragraph 6, we put in a precaution that if the sales tax receipts do not equal the cost of the projects, we'll start peeling off the projects at the end. Now, I don't want anybody to be alarmed by that. I don't think we're going to get to that situation, but as a lawyer, it's my want to be negative. So that's what I've done. And I would like to say something else. A lot of these projects are city projects. What I consider F1, item agenda F1 to be, is our opening offer to the city of Topeka. I don't want anybody's nose to get out of bent. I don't want anybody to say, dang it, they're doing it to us again. It's just an offer. It's our first chance to talk with the city about this since the tax is passed. Here it is. If you want to make changes, send them back to us. So that's all this is. It's our opening offer, nothing more. I happen to like it. If they accept it, that would be great. But a lot of these projects are city projects. If they want to move the order around, it is no skin off our nose. So this is an opening offer. City of Topeka, we'd appreciate it if you would look at it and give us some feedback.
Question, Commissioner?
Yes, Commissioner Beal.
Rich, for clarification, both governing bodies have to approve this. It's not a function of JADO. This is both governing bodies have to pass this interlocal agreement to put it in place, correct?
Yeah,
Individually.
This is actually the agreement that keeps JADO ongoing.
Right.
The prior contract, it says that JADO expires 1 year after the sales tax ends. So present JADO expires December 31st of 2017. This is the agreement that would keep JADO going for the life of this sales tax, plus 1 more year. So yes, it has to be approved. That's a long-winded answer for yes. It has to be approved by both bodies.
Commissioner Cook?
Commissioners, it's a bit of disclosure. I had spoken with Councilwoman Hiller shortly after the passage of the sales tax, and we had talked about whether or not it would be appropriate to have this interlocal discussed or negotiated as part of JADO. Having thought about it and had some time to think about it over, I think that this is the most appropriate way. It allows us to, as a body, think about our priorities, submit it to the city, and let the city submit. So that there is full representation from both of the bodies, whereas JADO would not have full representation from both of the bodies. And it allows both of them to establish their priorities and what they see as the highest needs. It would not shock me or surprise me if the City Council doesn't take Attachment A and reorganize some of it, looking at what they view as being some of their priorities in their projects. I appreciate the Attachment A does have the Topeka Zoological Park as the first item. I think that when the voters looked at the ballot question, that was one of the things that they saw as being key. Along with that, the 6th Avenue gauge to Fairlawn is also being an important, and then followed up with the Expo Center. The Expo Center has financial needs, as we are all aware, that need to be addressed sooner rather than later. And appreciate the priorities.
I'm not going to lie, Commissioners, there were 2 advocates in my private household, neither of which are old enough to vote, who were wanting to know about the zoo.
But as to the contract itself, I would highlight, ask the commissioners to review paragraph 7. And to me, this is a paragraph that I get asked about a lot. JADO's contract for independent contractor for economic development is not with Go-Topeka. It's with a contractor that JADO would choose. This interlocal sales tax is not designated for Go-Topeka. That's the body of JADO that makes that decision. Additionally, that contract is limited to 3 years. And finally, any contract shall require that the contractor must respond promptly to inquiries from voting and non-voting members of the board. So when there is negativity in the newspaper, when there is negativity amongst the public as to lack of oversight, every member of JADO, those are elected members, the voting and the non-voting, both have the ability to make inquiry of their contractor and expect prompt reply. And so I would point that out to the board. But I'm very pleased with this contract.
Okay. Thank you. Any additional thoughts,
Well,
Commissioner?
there is an increase for the amount of bridges in the county, and we all know that we have several needs in the county. And I think Betty pointed out the Public Works budget, and if we don't pay for our bridges with sales tax, that Public Works budget will look much different, and it will be property taxes. And so we have one in particular fracture critical bridge that needs to be taken care of, and not that this will completely cover it, but we will exhaust every resource to find, additional dollars to help with that project. But those costs will rest on all people within the city, the entire county. So I think it's best to pay with sales tax for county bridges. And I hope that the city council keeps that in mind.
What bridge was that you were talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Northwest Carlson Road Bridge over the
Over the
Kansas
Kansas
River,
River,
which is the
yes.
official
That's
Willard
right.
Bridge, yeah.
That's right. And
I've typed that a lot lately.
I know, yeah.
and that needs to be addressed.
Mhm.
And I would like to, again, say that I was surprised that the initiative passed almost a 2-to-1 margin. But again, I think it's a validation of what we've been doing and the oversight we've provided and the success we've had with economic development and infrastructure. That's why it passed 2-to-1. And I also want to point out that the list we've had, and you mentioned Betty's analysis that looks very conservative, and still we come out ahead as far as the requirements that we have for infrastructure and economic development, the zoo and the expo center. So, thank you, County Council. I'll make a motion to approve the contract as submitted.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Bueller to approve the contract. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Thanks again. Next item.
Number 2, consider canceling the December 29th, 2014 commission meeting and scheduling a December 30th, 2014 meeting.
I'll make a motion to change the meeting as shown.
Second. Oh,
Go ahead.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item 5, administrative communications. Number 1, report regarding a Western Nursery and Landscape Association educational meeting.
Excuse me. Commissioners, John Knight, Parks and Recreation. Several weeks ago, we would approach the county commission about out-of-state travel. Again, this is another item that's kind of come up a couple times in the other items this morning, but there's some skepticism in the public about spending taxpayer dollars for educational purposes, going out of town. I think the commission requires us on these out-of-state travel to provide a report When I read through the report from these three young ladies of what they learned on their out-of-state travel, I said, this report doesn't do justice for everything that they learned down at this conference. I wanted them to come up here, present to the commissioners what they took away from that conference that they went to in Oklahoma, what they've done with that, where they've come back and not only it wasn't a personal benefit, but more of a department benefit, how they've shared that with everybody on the staff, and what the economic impact, financial impact on our department might be over the next 15 or 20, 25 years. With that being said, I'd like to turn that over to our three horticulturalists. Rochelle Hubbard, Tracy Podlina, and Amy Jordan here. They have a brief presentation on what they learned on their out-of-state travel.
Hi, I'm Rochelle Hubbard. I've been a horticulturalist for the Parks Department for about 15 years. This is Tracy Podlina and Amy Jordan. We all work together out at Lake Shawnee. We all have our separate areas, but we do work together when we can, and we try to throw off ideas with each other and help each other out whenever we can. We've been buying from Greenleaf Nurseries for a few years now. It's a little bit more beneficial to buy wholesale sometimes, especially when we're buying in bulk or doing big projects. So when Greenleaf put on a field trial, this is something they do just every few years, maybe 5 or 10 years they do, because it is such a big thing and it is such a big place. It's hard for them to do that. They put a lot of work into it. So we were able to go on October 15th and 16th. Our sponsors was Kansas Nursery Landscape Association and the Western Nursery and Landscape Association. The Western provided our bus that we took down there. They did 2 buses. They did a Kansas bus and a Missouri bus. And then the Kansas Nurserymen and Landscape Association sponsored us on the bus. So just for us getting there and everybody, they provided food and ice cream from Call Hall, which was really fun. This was our bus. We had about 60 people that went with us. The bus was full. It was other horticulturalists, nurserymen. We were able to talk with them and learn about what they're doing, what they're selling, how they're growing. We were able to just learn some information from other Kansas growers. So that was really good to learn and hear from them. This is an aerial view of the Greenleaf Nursery one in Oklahoma. They are one of the largest nurseries in the U.S. They have 4 locations, 1 in North Carolina, 1 in Texas, and 2 in Oklahoma, which we were able to visit both of them in Oklahoma. This is their main headquarters is Park Hill, Oklahoma.
This is Park Hill. They have 650 acres, 350 field employees, 100 office staff, and 100 seasonal employees. And this is where they do their container production. This is the shot that we actually took from the top. It's on a hill, so that is all with greenhouses, and those are all the containers that they have. They propagate 90% of what they sell. So that lady is actually taking cuttings of all of the shrubs so that they can do that. And cutting-wise, when they're taking cuttings, they do 100,000 cuttings per day. It takes 1.5 to 2 years for them to produce a saleable plant, and this is what they put them in as all the containers. And then one of the questions that we asked was, how do they sterilize all those pots? And they laughed at us and said, in school you sterilize everything, but in the real world it doesn't really work out that way. And they actually spray during the season to handle any kind of diseases and stuff like that when they're actually in the pots and containers, and they don't worry about that going over. So that's always good for us to know what kind of they do for production. And this is actually the Hidden Lake part in Fort Gibson. The barn was original on the property and was historic to the community. The original was actually torn down, and the replica was built at the original site. It's really, really big, even though it doesn't look like it in that picture. They have 650 acres of field production. Currently, they are planting on 400 of it. Field production means they're actually planting directly in the ground, and those are all field grown then, and they use subsurface drip irrigation to irrigate. And then we asked them about pre-emergence, and they told us all the different kinds that they're using, and so we're trying to incorporate those as well. And I think I've done that.
So 70% of Greenleaf sales are in hydrangeas and roses, and knockout the knockout series is among the most popular, and so here are some pictures of that. I think Dave Jackson photobombed this one, but you can kind of see the field production or the knockouts behind that. Knockouts are great roses because they're very adaptable. They bloom from May to November, and so they really work well in landscapes. But one problem that they can have is rose rosette. So here's a picture of it. It's a virus that can cause some distortion in the tips and reduces flowering, stunts the growth, and the only control is to remove the plant. And we have struggled with rose rosette on knockouts quite significantly. We've had to remove a lot of them. And the management practices that were recommended were to sterilize your pruning equipment between roses to prevent spreading the virus on your equipment. And so that is very time consuming, but we did it just because we didn't want to spread the virus anymore. But we were talking with some of the greenleaf growers about that, and they said that some of the newer research shows that it's specifically transmitted by a mite and not by pruning equipment, which was previously thought. And so we did some more research when we came back and found out that some of the newer studies say that that is true, that it's specifically by the mite. So we're changing some of our management practices to focus on controlling the mite rather than worrying about it on pruning equipment or within the soil. So that was a major thing that is going to impact what we do. We also got to see some new varieties. They had some demonstration gardens there, and we take a lot of pride in our work. We maintain landscapes throughout the county. We have a lot of different conditions that we have to work in, and so we're always looking for plants that perform well. We put these plants in expecting them to be there for a long length of time, and so we want to choose ones that will do well. And so we got to see these plants actually growing in a landscape, got to talk to some of the growers about how do these perform for you, and got to learn about some of the newer ones because we don't want to try something that's immediately going to fail. So that really helped us. Also, they had some breeders on hand. We tried a new variety of azalea last year that bloomed all season, which is really unusual for an azalea. So we were excited about that. Got to talk with the breeders and learn about some of the newer colors that are coming out in this that we might be able to try also. So that was pretty exciting. So we just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to go on this trip and learn new things. It was a very brief trip, but we learned a lot. We plan to make some changes to weed control, improvements in our propagation, and trying some new plant material. We got to meet some fellow horticulturists and made connections across the state. There were horticulturists from Meade, Kansas to Coffeyville, so everywhere in between. It was pretty cool. We developed a better understanding of greenleaf and the growing practices of the plants that we purchase. We feel it's really important to buy from our local nurseries here in Shawnee County, which we do. They are really great to work with. They'll get us, anything that we request from them. But we feel it's the best use of county funds to buy wholesale, and so when we can do that, we try to. And so Greenleaf is one company that we find the best price from consistently, and so it was really neat to be able to see their facility and what they do, and to really see firsthand how the operation works. So thank you again for that opportunity. We really learned a lot.
Thank you. Excellent presentation. And from what I recall, some of the expenses of the trip you actually paid out of your own pocket.
We did, yes. We paid for the hotel, but thank you for the time to go there. So we appreciate that. So there wasn't any additional cost to the county for us going, but
No,
glad you let us go.
That's admirable. That is admirable. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other?
No,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay.
Now I know what's wrong with my knockout rose bush, so thank you.
Next item, please.
Number 2, presentation regarding the crisis response program.
I don't have a PowerPoint. Good morning, Brian Cole, Department of Corrections, Director. I'm here today to talk a little bit or provide an update on the crisis response program that back in April of 2014, I came before you along with Sheriff Jones of the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office regarding a letter of understanding or agreement between the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office, Shawnee County Department of Corrections, City Topeka Police Department, and Vallejo Behavioral Health Care to fund a full-time employee in the crisis response program. And at that time, it was just going to be a 6-month pilot to see how that was going to go. And then we are still in the process of looking at a grant to
fulfill and to pay and fund this program totally. And that's what I'm here today. What I briefly want to give everybody a little history that the crisis response program is an effort to reduce calls for services to enhance law enforcement and community safety, divert people with mental illness away from incarceration, divert those with mental illness away from the emergency rooms to be able to serve the consumer on the scene and divert them away from costly services, be able to provide that in the community. This is available to the city and all of Shawnee County residents. In 2013, there was over 1 million people booked into jails across the country who are suffering with serious and persistently mental illness. That not only do individuals with mental illness tend to serve longer sentences, they tend to get become more victimized and more vulnerable in the jails, and they cost more significantly to the taxpayer. The cost for a general population inmate is about $95 a day. It's 3 times that for somebody with mental illness. When you start tacking on medication, a different type of security level, maybe 2 officers, transports, and things like that. This is another component that I'm happy to say that sets Shawnee County and the city of Topeka apart from other jurisdictions, meaning we do have a very well-rounded crisis intervention team approach. This is another aspect of being able to add to those services. That the crisis response program is the next step to enhancing our system. This places a mental health professional with law enforcement during specific calls. They're dispatched, they're able to go out and be able to handle the crisis immediately. They can assist the officer in diffusing the crisis, and they can screen the individual for commitment or services without coming to jail. And we also, the benefit that we're seeing not only in the community but in the jail is that we're seeing this person comes to the jail and sees probably about 30 people a week, helping those individuals prepare for discharge, getting their medication programs set up in place, and also getting them set up for a doctor's appointment so the continuity of care is seamless when they leave. Because that's where we see a lot of problems, is that when somebody with mental illness gets released from the jail, they have an appointment, but they stop taking their medication, or they failed to go to their appointments or their doctor's appointment. This program also allows for the officer and our mental health professional to continue to do checkups when they're outside, away from the facility, or not in actual Vallejo. They go to the doors, they knock on the doors, they see how they're going. They're breaking and diffusing the stigma that when they see law enforcement, the consumer doesn't get panicky and start saying, hey, look, I'm going to jail. No, we just want to make sure you're doing okay. You're taking your medications. Do you need anything? And that is one of the benefits that, a big benefit that we're seeing. Since the inception, and I do have Officer Sean Kimball and our mental health professional in this, Jaylyn Beatty, they're the ones that do the work. And they're here today, and I'm going to have them come up and talk a little bit and give you a little bit more stats. But since the inception of July 1st, I think Jaylyn and they were able to tell me that they receive anywhere from, at a minimum of 40 calls a week that they're dealing with consumers, additional 30 inmates a week in the jail. And so far, the success has been that none of these individuals they've come into contact with have come into the door of the Department of Corrections, which is outstanding. Not saying that we're ever advocating that people with mental illness don't need to come to jail, because there's times that they do. But this is a program that we're diverting away from a costly option and keeping them away from the jail. And again, they monitor compliance. They're continuing to do that. And one of the things that I want to give everybody a little bit of an idea of the success, that there was a 21-year-old white female who walked away from Vallejo, and the second time that day, after being dropped off for involuntary commitment. She walked away to the flyover at 75 Highway and I-70 eastbound. Detective Biggs observed her on the bridge and advised responding units and diverted the traffic. Officer Kimball and Jaylyn, the crisis responder, arrived on the scene. That Jaylyn was able to talk with the female, who was extremely resistive, and suicidal, Officer Kimball made his way around her. The female proceeded to try to jump or step and jump from the railing, but she was taken into protective custody, and they got her to Stormont Vale and to treatment where she needed. That's the success and the value of this program. Not only is it to enhance the safety and security, it reduced taxpayers, but we saw a tremendous positive result from this. So I don't want to steal the thunder because it's easy for me to come up and talk. People know I like to talk, but only 2 minutes. But I have to bring Officer Kimball and Jalen up here because these are the officers and this is the mental health professional who are out on the streets every day doing this. And so I wanted to let them come up there. And I can't put a price on what they do and how they serve this community. So with that, go right ahead.
Thanks. I'm Jalen. Nice to meet everyone. I've been doing it since July 1st. Thank you. I appreciate it. I do enjoy my job. I've seen about 270 people in DOC, and I only go for about 6 hours a week. But I do a lot of emails and getting meds delivered outside of that time. I also give everyone my cell phone number and I get so many people come to the station, look for me, call me on my phone, hey, can you come? I'm out. Can you help me get set up with services, mental health and drug and alcohol? Also, I see about 40 to 50 people a week, and that's honestly just being dispatched out or when we're off. If I'm not being called on my phone by officers, I get kind of emails and then we go and follow up. Like last night you called 911, what can we do today now? Are you ready to go get a med appointment? Because we know these people and they know us and they trust us a lot more than some of the other officers, so they'll open up. I'm also do the mental health court that'll be starting up, so I've been in charge of that for the last 13 months. I went to training before I actually started this position, but so I do work with that a little bit, and that will be starting hopefully in January. So we do a lot more in the city, obviously, just because that's where most of the population live, because they live in Central, where close to services, because they don't have cars. But we also go out in the county. I shadow the office or deputies out there, and then I've done about 7 to 10 calls since July out there as well. So one family calls about, was it 100 times?
They called
in 6 months?
about 200 times so far this year up until our involvement with them.
And it's,
it,
they haven't called as far as we know. So.
Yeah, it is.
Any questions?
Jalen and I serve, actually all three, Officer Kimball, Jalen, and Deputy Cole, all serve on the alternative sentencing court with the City of Topeka Municipal Court, and I know that I appreciate all the work that you put in working with that as we get that started.
It's very exciting.
I don't know if Sheriff Jones wants to say anything. This has been a true partnership with us and the Sheriff's Office, and the value of being able to, this is not just limited to the city residents, that it goes out into the county, and that's what we're here for.
And I would like to say thank you as well, and everybody's working together really.
Yes.
But most importantly, those people are getting the care they need, and that's huge. And that cuts down on cost in all of the agencies, I would think.
We
so.
also try not to use the ambulance at all, and they even start coming up to us now and saying, thanks for bringing them in, because they don't need it.
Yeah.
They just need to go to Vallejo, or that's their way of getting there.
the help.
instead
Yeah,
of-
it's huge.
So, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
No, I just ditto what everything's been said. Excuse me, when this was brought to us in this vein here, it was basically about service for our people in this community right here. Although it does save taxpayers' monies, but it is another venue of how we can serve the people in a better way, in a humane way, other than just taking and putting someone off in jail or so. This is an initiative that puts this county, this city, out there far better than so many other communities across the United States there. And a lot of it just goes with the cooperation of all these entities right here. So great job, great job.
Thank you.
Thanks for the update.
Thank you, Brian. I love success stories in Shawnee County, and that's one. Thank you very much. Next item.
Number 3, presentation on upcoming events.
Commissioners, John Knight, Parks and Recreation. Before this meeting started, I saw Terry Cook with Visit Topeka running around in the offices visiting with some of you guys. They just finished a branding campaign for Topeka and Shawnee County, and that is some of the things that they touched on is why Topeka and Shawnee County is the place you want to move to live, work, and play. Items like was just on before us is one of those, and then I've got a presentation. Here's another reason why you'd want to move and work and live in Topeka. Randy Luby, Recreation Director, is here to talk about some of the special events that we have coming up. And as I was told by one of the county commissioners the last time I did this, he did a lot better job of that. And I fully expect by the time he gets done with the presentation of some of his staff, you'll probably not want Randy back as well either. With that being said, I'm going to turn this over to Randy.
Randy Luby, Parks and Recreation. John is always really hard to follow, his comedic act that he has there. But the first event I wanted to mention is being held Saturday, November 22nd, out at Lake Shawnee. We are proud to host the 2014 National Junior College Association Half Marathon. It's a championship for this half marathon organization. As John mentioned, Terry Cook was here. He got pulled away at the last minute. Visit Topeka was instrumental in getting this event to Topeka. Past locations, it's been in Dallas, Georgia, not Dallas, Texas, Leavitt, Texas, and Overland Park, Kansas. But we're expecting 250 athletes to compete in this competition, and we'll be bringing around 400 fans and spectators and coaches to Topeka and Shawnee County. The actual economic impact is estimated at about $75,000 for just this one-day race coming in. So we're very pleased to host it. We're looking forward to the event on Saturday. Sean Osborne, Recreation Supervisor for Lake Shawnee, has been instrumental also in meeting and planning the event. It'll be held out at the event center at Bettis is the meeting place, and they'll start the race. So it'll be actually 2 times around on our trail. So we're really looking forward to hosting that event. Other events that we have coming up, I might want to mention there's a myth with Parks and Recreation that when winter comes, we don't do a whole lot. As you can see, we've got 2 pages of special events in December, which is everybody thinks is our slow time, and really we are as busy in the winter months as we are in the summer months. So we do have Winter Wonderland opening November 26th through December. It's TARC's biggest fundraiser they have. It's the 60th year of the TARC organization serving the Topeka area, and we're very proud to be the host site for this event. And I know Sean again was instrumental in directing staff and along with the park division in setting up this event, and we're ready to roll here in a couple weeks. The Old Time Prairie Happenings is at Old Prairie Town. It's a Victorian dinner on the 5th, 6th, and 12th and the 13th. There's a tour, entertainment. It's a great way to kick off the holiday season. You're looking for something to do with your spouse. I think this is a great way to kick off the holiday season. We have several events on December 6th. We have Breakfast with Santa at the Velma K. Paris Community Center from 9 to 11. We have the Old Fashioned Christmas Craft Fair at Crestview Community Center, and this is one of the holiday favorites. Again, we have about 50 booths of handcrafted items and baked goods, and they're all for a reasonable sale. And then we have the 34th Annual Karate Spectacular being held at Central Park on December 6th, starting at 11 a.m. One of another cool event on December 13th at Crestview is the Candy Cane Hunt and S'mores with Santa. You actually bring flashlights and goodie bags, and you'll go outside to hunt for candy cane hunt. I think it's kind of a creative way, and they always have a really good turnout. It's a great family event. The
33rd Annual Children's Christmas Shopping Spree is held at the Garfield Community Center on December 13th from 9 to 3 p.m. It's again holiday crafts that are made with reasonable prices. We have bedtime stories with Santa on December 18th, Shawnee North Community Center. Special evening with Santa Claus reading the stories to the kids. My last event is the annual community Christmas party for children and community awards dinner. This is held at the Hillcrest Community Center on December 22nd. I have Daryl Stewart, and he's going to do a little brief presentation on this. It's our way of saying thank you to our local partners, and if you know through our master plan, we are trying to encourage partnerships. Daryl does an excellent job of bringing in his whole community in Hillcrest to benefit that area and his neighborhoods in that area. And with that, I'd like to just turn it over to Daryl, and you can do a little brief presentation.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Daryl.
If I do this right.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Thank you. Good morning. Daryl Stewart with Shawnee County Parks and Rec. Hillcrest Community Center, every year, our main goal as we move forward with the strategic plan is to develop as many partners as we can to help offset some of the costs that we're incurred to run some of the many different programs that we do. Today, I'm going to show you a few of our programs that we're doing. Not all of them, but just a few. Our community partners include Silverbacks Sex Group, Highland Park Central NIA. All these different groups are very instrumental in some of the programs that we do at the Hillcrest Community Center. Without some of these groups working with us, it would be very, very hard to administer some of the programs that we have for the citizens of Shawnee County. One of the main programs that we have is our after-school program. Our after-school program, with that program, we try to instill some different things for the kids. We have guests come in and speak with the kids. We're trying to build productive citizens for Shawnee County through the program. We work on different ideas. The kids form their own boards and they report back to us on some of the things they would like to see and run within the community. Our Trunk or Treat program is ran through the Success Group and 2 or 3 other major community groups. At this particular program, we had over 400 people show up, and plans are already in effect to make this a bigger, better event for our community next year. The main thing about this program is it gets all those community groups to work together to enhance the lives of our kids in our community. Our newest partner is our Silverbacks dinner program. That's a program for any kid that's 18 and under can come into the facility and get a free dinner Monday through Thursday all year long. That's very helpful for the community. As a parent, you can plan on your kid can go ahead and have somewhere else to eat, so you can use that money for other activities, paying your bills and things like that. Very, very nice program. It's been extended to the Central Park Community Center. Lord Thurston Daughters of the Elks program is a program, is an Easter egg hunt that's totally funded through the Daughters of the Elks. They feed the participants. They purchase all the items that's needed. Last year they had over 200 small youth to participate in that program. Next year they're trying to induce cappers for the special needs kids in the community also. Our family fun day in the park is with our Success Group. Last year over 400 people participated in that program, vendors, food. What's unique about this program is we're bringing the fun back into family. Everything about this program is geared to make the family more wholesome and more better. And so we have community awards that we pass out at that program also. Very nice program. Our summer camp program is also through a local group with it's called Cool Summer, and a major sponsor for that program is the Sunset Optimist Club. They provide all the fees. They pay for all the fees for all our trips, and they also sponsor kids into the camp itself. So that's helped us keep the cost of the camp low, and the camp is geared to give some place for the kids in the community a place to come and feel at home. At our annual Christmas party this year, we plan to recognize all these different groups that are viable to our programs. And what we're going to do is we're going to give every kid that's in our program, what we have them do is fill out a Christmas wish list, and we try to get them one thing off that list. Now, they won't get a PlayStation 2 and all that. But you would be surprised. Most kids want little things like a pair of socks, a basketball, those things type of things. So we go out and work with the community groups to get those type of things for the kids. And this year we plan on recognizing our community partners, and we have a special award for our Community Partner of the Year award. Any questions?
Very good. Good work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl.
Thank you, Daryl.
I want to thank Daryl. He, as you can tell, a lot of these programs are not possible without the partnerships to do that. And Lynn Bishop, his supervisor, is here. She's instrumental in directing Daryl. Daryl does a great job in the Hillcrest area. So thank you, Daryl.
Thank you, Randy. Good job. Good job. Next item, please.
Item 6, executive sessions.
Rewind the tape.
Okay.
There are more administrative communications that may not be on the agenda. So,
Commissioners, Tom Block again with Public Works and Solid Waste. With next week being the Thanksgiving holiday, we have some pretty major changes in our collection schedule for solid waste. It affects nearly everyone except for one day. On Monday, we will be collecting our Monday and Tuesday customers. On Tuesday, we will be collecting our Wednesday and Thursday customers. And then our Friday customers will be picked up on Wednesday. So that's it's a shift for 4 different collection days. So, thank you.
okay. Thank you, Tom.
I just want to give you a little bit of information there. Excuse me. This past week, we had, excuse me, as you know, we are a accredited law enforcement agency here, and we just experienced the on-site assessment of our agency. So as of Sunday, we had assessors come in from Florida as well as Missouri, and sat down and went through our agency's policies, reviewed procedures, our directives that we have, interviewed personnel, as well as had a public hearing for the community. We sent out information across. I believe you may have received something on that as well. But we had individuals that come in and gave support, or at least gave some testimony. I got to say, quite honestly, I was really humbled by those that came in, but I'm not surprised by the people that work for the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office. I specifically want to give thanks to Director Ryan Cole for representing the Department of Correction. He came over and gave testimony. We had others came in as well from KBI and Airport Authority, and some citizens came in. But I think that's attributed to the men and women that work for the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office. They're very dedicated. With this, then, I believe we are going to be very successful with our recertification there. Of course, this is just an assessment, and they make a recommendation. The assessors make a recommendation to the full commission. And from that, then, of going through that, I believe there were, I don't think, any issues whatsoever. And when I say that, that's not a small feat. When you're looking at the standards that we have to abide by for the best practices across the nation and actually international, we're looking at about nearly 200 different standards that we have to abide by. And from the information, the preliminary information that we received from our agency is that we didn't have any issues. And in past years, the last certification or reaccreditation that we had received, it was the mark of excellence, meaning that we were superlative in our standards and what we do and how we perform and how we conduct ourselves through the community. And that is, again, indicative to the people, fine people that work for this community and serve day in and day out. It becomes more of a challenge with, as we know, budgets, the constraints and those types of things right there. And also some of the staff that has departed there. But for those that are still there, very dedicated. And I'd be remiss if I didn't get up here and say it publicly, how much I appreciate the people that work for the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office, as well as the community that they serve and the support that we receive. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
Others? Commissioner Cook?
Just briefly, I want to thank the city of Topeka for deferring action on it, taking up the long-range plan that would talk about reduction in development that falls within the municipal boundaries zone. I know that we sent a letter to them. They responded very promptly and indicated that they too wanted to hear back from those citizens that live within that area. So I appreciate the city of Topeka taking into account our request. Also, I did receive my tax statement. I know that Treasurer Ma has come down to talk about it. I did receive mine in the mail yesterday, so take a moment and look through it. What struck me was that out of my tax on my home, I actually pay more money to USD 501 than I do to Shawnee County. I mean, that just struck me. And so sometimes you might be surprised with where your money is actually going. And then finally, last week, or on Monday, I brought up on our vouchers that the Shawnee County had spent $19,000 on purchase of trout for Lake Shawnee, which we are reimbursed by the state of Kansas on. And I also mentioned that I did not catch any of the trout. Afterwards, Mr. Knight suggested perhaps next year I would want to come and try my hand before they put the trout in the lake. So I always appreciate our department heads for their insight and wisdom.
Very good. Commissioner?
Along those same lines with the city of Topeka and the long-range plan, I understand there is going to be a follow-up meeting
Yes.
with the township officials, so I appreciate them reaching out to that group. And then also some follow-up with those property owners within the 3-mile area. So very much appreciate them reaching out to those two bodies. And then the only other thing I had was a thank you to the Shawnee County Extension Council. We had an opportunity to go to their annual meeting, and it was a time when they look back and their annual report is here, but then they also presented some awards to those who serve and volunteer on a lot of their boards. But we also had the opportunity to tour the Museum of the Kansas National Guard, and not the Combat Air Museum, but the National Guard Museum. And for those of you who have not been there, you really need to go. In particular, they have a replica of the MASH unit tent, and it's, I won't say anything more, you just have to go and see it for yourself, but it was a real nice surprise, so just a plug for them. They have a lot of great exhibits in that museum. So.
No, I agree that it was a great event, and the museum is a good secret that people need to know about and go out and see. It's very impressive.
And that's where our meeting was held.
Yes.
I probably didn't connect those two, but yeah.
I'd like to thank the city also for deferring consideration on their long-term plan, and just thanks to the city for doing that. I wanted to recap our meeting today, and some of the highlights. We recognize Scott Garcia for his participation with the 190th. We talked about how we're dedicated to social services, and we fund those from Shawnee County. We talked about the donation of land to Parks and Rec. What a positive thing that is for our community. We talked about our finances and how the tough decisions we've made in the past are starting to pay off for the finances of Shawnee County. The horticulturalists who paid some of their own expenses for professional enrichment, again, I admire them, and their presentation was excellent, it was very well done. The crisis response program, another very positive and successful deal for Shawnee County, and I appreciate that. So, and then Parks and Rec with the Hillcrest, and thank you again, Darrell, for that. So we've got so many positive and successful stories to tell, and we need to make sure that we tell those. Okay, that's important. Next item, please.
Item 6, executive sessions.
You want to make a motion?
Yes, I would move that we adjourn for actually all 4 of our big items, which would be personal matters of non-elected personnel, consultation with an attorney or body, which would be deemed privilege in the attorney-client relationship, matters relating to the employer-employee negotiations, whether or not in consultation with representative or representatives of the body or agency, and preliminary discussions relating to the acquisition of real property. When it relates to the consultation with the attorney and preliminary discussions of real property, I would like to have Rich Eckert and Betty Greiner. And as it relates to employer-employee negotiations, I would like to have Mr. Thummel participate. And that would, and for a term of, let's make it interesting, 37 minutes.
I don't know who's going to second that.
I'll second.
Motion made to go into executive session for 37 minutes by Commissioner Cook and seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say no, and no action is anticipated. We are in executive session.
Oh, bless you. Yeah, it's just that
Where'd
kind of
everybody go?
season.